What's up, guys and gals? My name is Splattercat, and we are here at the Nerd Castle with the next episode of Weekly Indie Newcomer, where I take a look and show you guys what I've been playing recently in all of my off time. Aside from the Elder Scrolls Online, I have been playing Rogue's Tale, which is a very, very cool roguelike, and I want to stress that this is not a roguelite. This is a game in which you can very seriously log in and die within seconds. It's happened. It's happened to me multiple times. One time, logged into a single dungeon, a wolf jumped out of the corner and was just like, you know what? I want your throat. And that is what happened. He took it from me. It was ugly. It was absolutely terrible. So today, I've already pre-configured my character. When you start out, you get to choose between strength, agility, stamina, and charisma. Charisma helps you out with buying and selling. Stamina helps you out with anything that has to do with strength. So basically, stamina powers both your HP and how much stamina you have when attempting to do like exertion. So if you're trying to like roll a boulder or you're trying to force a door down, you have these little pips. I'll show you guys once we get in game, but I'm gonna go for 2 points of stamina and 2 points of strength. Strength affects your melee hit chance and how much damage you do. Agility affects all your roguey skills like lock picking. It affects how likely you are to like dodge things, how likely you are to hit with arrows and things of that nature. Given my character's physique, I'm going to name him Jinja, Lord of the Dungeon. And so we will start with the potion of antidote. It's the only perk that I have to start with because I'm terrible at this game and I always get annihilated. So anyways, let's go ahead and start off. And it's going to randomly generate a dungeon for us. And so here we are, standing in the darkness of the dungeon with only our dear dagger to keep us safe. Over here we've got a snail which we're going to victimize violently. There we go. So now the snail has been victimized violently. We're also going to kill that one. So 2 snails have now died. They have fallen victim to our noble blade. It'd be a bit of a downer if these snails were totally nice guys. Like the snails had nothing to argue about. They're just like, hanging out in a dungeon, having a beer, man. What's up? Oh God, you stabbed me. That would be the way my life would go. And as you can see, the game there's an online lobby. I don't know. This feature is kind of interesting. Like, you play the game single player, but you can chat with other people playing the game. I don't know. It made the game better for me. I found it to be more enjoyable now that I could just be like, hey, what happens if I click this thing? And then other people could just chime in and be like, oh, that thing's going to explode, or that thing's going to rip off your fingers, or that thing's going to give you super cool eye lasers. It's nice to be able to not have to go to a wiki whenever you have a question. You can just ask the community straight from here, and somebody will probably answer you. That being said, don't log in the first time. Like, I thought this was going to be a roguelike like NetHack, where I logged in the first time and instantaneously just started saying like swear words because I thought it was just my character making swear words in Orcish. And then somebody actually logged into chat and was like, hey man, you should probably back off on that. You're going to get banned. And I was like, oh, I thought I was all alone. I thought this was like one of those humorous things they just added to games where like you could play multiplayer with your friends, but when nobody else is online, you can just like spam out terrible words. And that's how it happened. It was a little bit embarrassing. But not really. We successfully pick the lock. Now, I am going to talk about a couple of the things that I like about this game and how it stands against other games. First and foremost, I really like the presentation of the game. Nothing gets me locked up. That snail fell into a spike pit. That's another thing that I like, is there's a lot of just like random... The storyline develops itself, so it's called Emergent gameplay, but as you're going through the map, you can notice that things have been happening in other rooms as you've been wandering around. So for example, this snail right here fell into a spike pit and died before he could get out. He just fell in and bled out. Let's make sure we're lighting all of the torches here. We've reached level 3, and that's why we light torches. Now let's talk about the UI a little bit. I was talking about the presentation, and there are a lot of things about this game that I like. You can play with a mouse, or you can play with a keyboard. You can go either direction if you prefer, and so that eliminates one of the big gripes that a lot of people have about roguelikes and ASCII games, is that typically they tend to be keyboard games where you've got to memorize like a ton of random keybinds and things like that. This game is no different. You will find yourself memorizing a lot of keys. However, you can still use the mouse for navigation and for basic activities. So for example, if I just clicked this torch over here, if I right click anything, it's the same as activating it with the keyboard. And so I can kind of walk around with the mouse and I can right click the torches and put them out and put them back on. I can go over to a boulder and I can... Well, it's not going to let me do that, so I guess my exhibition there was kind of false. But anyways, I like to play with the keyboard just because I'm an old school roguelike player, and so I'm just used to it. It's easier for me. And so I am going to show you guys, here's a list of all the keybinds in the game, just so you can see what there is. If you wanted to pause the game and see, this is all the different activities you can take. Obviously, it's not as thick or as cumbersome of, say, like NetHack or any of those sorts of games, but still, there's a lot of stuff to learn. I mean, until you get all these keys down, it's not going to be as confusing as learning, like, Cataclysm DDA for the first time. But that's one of the things that I do like about this game, is that even though there's not a lot of keys and stuff to memorize, the game is still remarkably deep and at the same time accessible, which is very, very rare for a roguelike. We've got ourselves a hammer on the ground, and so I'm going to equip said hammer. There we are, and then I've got my dagger. I'm going to hold on to that. And so that's the first thing that I'll say, is that the way the game is presented is very, very good. At the top of the screen right here, you can see that I have my HP bar. Very clear, very visible. It's not hidden down it's not hidden down among all the rest of my stats. You've got our exertion points. That's what I was talking about with the stamina right there. So let's say that I had fallen into the spike pit. To get out of the spike pit, I have to spend an energy point to get out. And these do regenerate. If you just spend a turn like standing around, they do regenerate, as well as your health, so long as you're sated down here with regards to your food and your water. So anyways, let's continue moving around here. And we'll talk about some other things. So what are all these things down at the bottom of the screen? Well, you've got your strength, which obviously if you mouse over any of these stats, it'll tell you how they work and what they're used for, which is a really cool feature in case you get confused. These are all of your resistances, with the left number, I think, indicating your resistance against critical hits, and the right number indicating your resistance versus general hits. So if they hit you in the head, it uses the left number to resist. If they hit you in the body, it uses the right number to resist. Your charisma points, you've got 6 out of 6, so I think if this gets nerfed by like a potion or something like that, it'll say like 5 out of 6 until it comes back. If you mouse over any of your stats, it'll tell you what your plus or minus is to any of the rolls that you'll be making with given regards to that stat. And so there's a lot of cool, interesting things to be memorized and learned in this game. What is this? It's a scepter. Let us pick up the scepter. I had a friend that used to call scimitars scimitars. Ooh, a reflex save right there. A boulder falls down on you, but you step aside before being flattened. So we were still flattened, but we managed to step aside. Ambiguous sentence, go! No, we didn't get flattened. Everything is fine. We are not like a crepe right now. A creppy. So there's nothing in that crate that I want. There are some arrows laying around. We're not going to be a ranged character, so it's not really going to help us. We can go to this wishing well over here, and we can contemplate for a little while if we wanted to learn some skills. I think there's 5 or 6 different little nodes where you can meditate once you've got one of these perks from leveling up, and they all have different abilities. So if you meditate by the well, it appears as though most of these are going to be... It looks like most of these are going to be kind of resistance type things. So we can reroll mental checks, we can reroll reflex checks with the silent sense, with the sixth sense. We can cast without our voice, so we become immune to being silenced. We have keen eye, which means that we could reroll our search checks. And dark vision, which increases our light radius by 1. I'm going to go for reflex checks, because when you're getting shot at, I think you make a reflex check whenever somebody fires an arrow at you, and the number 1 cause of death for me is arrows. I get killed by archers all the time in this game because they're bastards. I'm going to equip our buckler as well. I don't know what the wand does. It could be cursed. Every item in this game comes unidentified, so it's really kind of a bad idea to use any of them if you don't know what they do. Just kind of sit on them until you get out of the game. With the way that the game works with regards to its flow of gameplay, basically, you go down through a dungeon, and once you clear it, it'll say the dungeon has been cleared, and you can go back up to the surface, and hopefully we'll get to do that. If not, I'll start a new... Oh, there's a wolf, and we don't have very good weapons. This is gonna suck. Oh, we one-shotted him. Hell yeah! That's what you get, dog. Back away from me, ye furry bastard. I am Lord of the Hammer. And so we've also got a damaged digger right there. I'm not going to take that. The damaged digger, one thing that is useful about the digger is it allows you to dig through walls. So if I have that, I can actually destroy the architecture of the dungeon. There's a giant rat right there that's making pig noises, and that makes me very, very nervous. And so I think I'm just going to hit it with a hammer repeatedly until it stops making noises. You're making the wrong animal sound. I have one of those spinny wheel things right now, and it very specifically says the mouse says eep, or the mouse says squeak, whichever you prefer, but definitely the mouse does not go oink. That would be the pig. You have a bad feeling about the buckler. Okay, so the buckler just laughed at me when I tried to pick it up, and I find that to be condescending, so I'm just going to walk away. It's probably cursed. Everything in this game is cursed. Like, basically equipping anything in this game without, like, identifying it first tends to be kind of a bad idea. We've got what looks like a wizard right here, or at least an aspiring orcish wizard. We have no armor. Ooh, we one-shotted him. We made him bleed out of his head. Awesome. And we will take his armor. Oh, he had cursed armor. Maybe that's why he attacked us. Maybe that's why he's like, I'm cursed. Kill me. Kill me. And so that's what we did him a service. He wanted to be killed because he was cursed. I'm going to equip my helmet. There we are. And it gives us chromatic resistance. That's kind of strange. So resistance to color, I guess. It is kind of brownish. I don't feel like it's a very fashionable helmet. It makes sense. It makes sense. Now we need to find the exit. So let's find our way. I think it was it down here or was it down here? I don't know. I'm terrible at these sorts of games. There are a lot of things that I'm hoping to get to show you guys before we get through this little weekly indie newcomer. If you wanted to buy the game, I don't actually know the cost because I think this is one of the games that got sent to me. So it'll be down in the description below. Unprofessionality, go. That's my buckler is cursed with unprofessionality. I'm sorry. Oh, no. You step on a tripwire attached to alarm bells, and now everyone knows you're here. Great. I was trying to be fashionably late and just kind of show up at the party, and now they've ruined my awesome entrance. Let's check the cupboard. There's a worn barrier right here. I'm going to equip that right this second. So you do want to equip shields in this game, even if you're like a wizard, because shields are fantastic. They allow you to completely and totally just be like, you don't deal damage to me this turn. You can pretty much write off anything that anybody tries to do to you, and it's awesome. I don't know if I'm wearing a worn leather helm right now or a normal one. A worn one. So let's get rid of the worn one, and we'll put on the normal leather helm. I do like the way that your armor gets added to your character, too. That was always something that I really, really wish that they had in, say, Dungeons of Dread more. I'm one of those people that loves that armor show up on characters. Like, it just aesthetically changes the way your character looks. I find that to be just a major, major selling point for me. Oh, no. And so, there you go. The game ended. And that's the way the game typically ends. We walk around the corner. Like I told you, archers right now need to be rebalanced. That's just... It's just part of the game. Archers are absolutely horrific right now with regards to how they're balanced. I would say that probably 95% of my deaths are to archers. I don't die to anything but archers, to be honest. They hit just way too hard right now. So anyways, we've died, and I haven't been able to show you anything cool. And so you get a score at the end. It does log it onto the server. And you can see right here, Jinjar has now been properly buried at the Shrine of Forgotten Heroes. And he shouldn't haunt us anymore. I mean, he might. And so here you can see all of my high scores. You can see that I've made it reasonably far. I've made it to like my second or third dungeon a couple times. And had maxed out stat characters every now and again. But it doesn't happen very often. So basically, if you make it down to the bottom of the dungeon, you clear it out, you go back up to the village. We're going to journey onwards. I'm going to take the same character one more time, and I'm going to show you guys the village just so you know what it looks like. But first, ding. Why did that snail just ding at me? And we've already been, we stepped in a spike pit. That's unfortunate. And so we've leveled up. I'm going to put a point into stamina so that we have a bit more health. And I'm going to hang out right here and get my health back. And I'm going to show you the city real fast. So this is what happens. After you finish a dungeon, you go back to the city. And in the city, you have all of these different services that you can partake in. Whether it's identifying items, repairing them, you can enchant your items and make them magical. And basically, you can spend all of the loot that you got in the previous dungeon to make yourself more likely to survive the next run. And then what you do is you reset the dungeon and you re-enter it. And that's just what you do over and over and over again. Now, there are bosses that will randomly show up that are quite difficult. In fact, I've been eaten by them on several occasions. They really do sort of suck when you accidentally get a boss. But anyways, let's get back to adventuring, because that's one of the fun things about this game is I like it. You can play a round of this. Oh, he's throwing knives at me. Why? Okay, so we've murdered a guy. We've been in the dungeon for like 7 seconds and we've murdered a guy, but he came right at us, so I feel like it's okay. We're gonna take his leather cap and his 5 gold coins. It looks like let's dual wield this time around. Hell yeah. We take a penalty, though, on our offhand if we start dual wielding, but you know what? We're going to do it anyways because they can't control us. So there it is. Now we're dual wielding, and it's awesome, and we look pretty awesome like Dritz. This is going to be amazing when I'm dual wielding all over the place, doing all the crazy spins. Now, one of the downsides is that that guy killed off all of our snails, and so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for us to get free. Ooh, a chain coif. I'm going to go ahead and put that on my cranium, because it's way better than what we're wielding before, the leather cap. Get out of here. And so now we have a super awesome chainmail hood, which everybody knows is probably the most stylish of accessories that you can equip if you're going to be hanging out in a dungeon. I've also got some studded armor. I will put that on. I'm going to put a mace in my main hand so that we got a mace right there and like, oh, we stepped on something. You step on a hidden magic trap and something hits you. Well, hopefully it was like a trap of ineffectual spit-wadding or something and not really a trap of genital immolation. It seems as though, with my luck, I would probably step on the second trap most. Oh, this is a really small floor. Alright, well, whatever. I can disarm this, by the way, if I really want to. You disarm the tripwire. Sometimes you get XP for it, so that's why I try and disarm things. A wolf has bitten us. There we go. And so dual wielding does not appear to be working out so well. I may back off this proclamation until we get the dual wielding perk that kind of gets rid of the offhand penalty. So let me rest for a bit now that we're sated and we've got all of our food and water taken care of. Oh, another one, really? Alright. So everybody knows we're here. Luckily, the bad guys seem to be really terrible at picking locks. They're pretty good at kicking down doors, though. Just something to be aware of. We've got a Spidarian right there. We're going to take him on out. While I'm sated, I might as well get my 1 HP back. I mean, it's a minor thing to be worried about, but I definitely That 1 HP, it's happened before. 1 HP might save me or doom me later on. We've got a rock in a bookcase. I think somebody is deeply confused as to what a bookcase is used for. But you know what? Maybe they were using their imagination. Maybe they don't have any books. They just wish really hard that they had a book, and so they pretend that the rock is a book. And they just put it in the bookcase and hope that later on they'll be able to be literate. Someday I'll read a book. I don't want to I think that's a meditation point, actually. So we could actually spend our perks here if we wanted to. We could become literate in multiple things, or we could take focused cast. Now, if you're looking at the literacy, what this basically means is that you can read tomes and learn their spells if you're literate in the language that they're written in. So, for example, books that are written in Draconic will have a dragon on them. Books that are written in Infernal will have like this little demon skull on them. In Celestial, I don't think I've ever seen a Celestial book drop, or if I have, I don't remember it. We can also do focused cast, which means that we can cast spells at specific locations. And it appears as though direct damage and healing spells receive extra damage or healing depending on the relevant bonus modifier. I don't know. I'm not going to take... So we have to take literacy and common first before we could take... It's basically a prerequisite before we can learn any of the more complicated languages. I'm just going to walk away because we're an ignorant warrior with tons of armor and stuff like that. What is this? It's an Ankh on a chain. I'll take it. We're not going to equip it right now because you never know what's going to happen when you equip one of those bastards. It could be just like a cursed chain of genital shrinkage or something. I feel like I'm fixating really heavily on that kind of modification right now. I feel like there might be something Freudian going on. Like why all my modifiers, I'm just horrified that they might affect my person. They might affect my special purpose. I'm not going to tell that story right now. So anyways, let's go ahead and go to the next floor. There's a rather sinister looking orc over here with a handlebar mustache or large tusks and an axe. And I think he's probably unfriendly. Oh, and I stepped on a bear trap too. That's fun. Why can't I use the ladder right now? Let me use the ladder. There's an orc coming. No! Oh, he threw a rock at me. This is civilized man combat. Why are you throwing rocks at guys? That axe hurts like hell, by the way. If he actually hits me with that thing, it is gonna sting. And so now we're dead. And so unfortunately, that's just the way things go in this game. Like, sometimes it's just... I don't know. I don't know what there's some masochistic purpose in this game that just keeps you playing. Like, the rounds are fast, you die rapidly, and you're back in the game almost instantaneously. And so I think that's part of what makes it more fun, is just trying new things every time you play through. I mean, to a certain extent, you have to go with a certain amount of, like, melee proficiency when you first enter the game. Otherwise, it's just not going to go well for you, because you've got to have those preliminary skills to get rid of the first few mobs you fight. But later on down the line, I've actually never messed around with maging or anything like that. I've built a couple warriors, and I've built a couple rogues and ranged characters. In fact, I may do something like that this time. Let's take some bolts, in case we find a weapon that allows us to fire at things. Take a little bit of agility this time so that we can fall back on melee weapons if the need arises, but we'll start out with bows and wasn't there a bows up here? Hold on, let's go back and make sure there wasn't a bow on the first floor. I think there was. So yeah, we'll take the damaged... Oh, it only does 1 damage. Well, it's pretty bad then. There would be no reason to equip that. We might as well just use our dagger. Destroy that gravestone in the hope that we'll get some free loot, a studded helm, and so it worked out. We'll stick that on our head because everybody knows that when you're wandering through a dungeon, the first thing you should do with everything that you find is stick it. Oh, a ninja star. We got ourselves a ninja star. So I'm going to take the damaged hatchet. And the current dagger that we have is D3 plus 1, which means that it has a 2 to 4 damage ratio, a range, whereas this would have a 0 to 5. I'm actually not going to... Let's just drop that on the ground. Never mind. I'm going to go to my secondary weapons. And I'm going to equip ninja stars as my secondary weapon. Wait, I don't want to throw them right now. Or do I have to? How do I... Okay. Alright, so I've got that covered now. I've learned something today. Who would have known that we would have started out by learning something today? You can't equip 2 groups of weapons at the same time, just in case you were wondering. I'm going to stab that snail to death because he looked at me wrong. And that's what we do when we're in the dungeon hood. And really hope. Okay, good. So we've got that. And if you're going to focus on agility, you probably want to wear like leather armor, things that give you a chance to dodge. I don't specifically know how dodging works. Like I said, I've played this game about 30 or 40 rounds of the game, and there's still a lot of things that I'm not sure about. It's a typical roguelike in that respect, where you've got to kind of figure out what's going on with the way that the game works before you can do a lot of different stuff efficiently. You tend to play the same character archetype over and over and over again because you're familiar with it. I'm going to take the scroll, although they don't tend to sell for very much once you get up to the surface. They're expensive to identify, and they tend to not be very good either. Let's wander around a little bit further. I should probably eat some food because we're not sated anymore, and I need to get some health back. We've also got a white potion, and I think I'm going to drink it, because when you find a bottle of white stuff in a dungeon, obviously you're supposed to drink it. Oh, never mind. That's a potion of antidote. Okay. That works out. Worn leather armor. We've already got it. Sometimes there's stuff under these boulders, if you can push them. And as you can see, the little points at the top of the screen, the little blue points that I'm regenerating now, went away, but obviously we're not strong enough, so I guess we will move forward. We're just not strong enough. We couldn't make it work. And an archer. Which means that he's not shooting at me. Is he friendly? I don't think he's friendly. Can I talk to you? You see a stern-looking woman. Who are you? I am called Ingrid, and you are? I am Jinja, Lord of the Dungeon. So what is it you do? I am a bowman. You are a bowwoman, and I understand why you would just call it bowman, because bowwoman seems like it would need a hyphen or something, but do you know any bow tricks? Perhaps if you want to learn, you can learn steady shot, or we could say please roll over and die and murder her. So, are you sure you want to learn steady shot? Sure, why not? We'll take steady shot, and then we will murder you for your bow and all of your archery supplies and archery-related accessories. And so we're a murderer. It's official. Surprisingly, I feel kind of okay about it. So we have a damaged recurve bow with a damage range of 0 to 3. Not so bad. We've got 4 arrows with D3 damage and 9 gold coins. And so we came out of that one on... What is that? Is that an egg? An unidentified egg. Some people have become sick after eating a raw egg. The game... Oh, I stepped in a spike pit too. That's really lame. Okay, so I want to rest. Let's go ahead and hang out and rest for a minute till we get all of our health and all of our mana back. Ooh, there's more arrows over here. So now what we want to do is let's swap over to our secondary weapon. Alright, it says excellent. You can make ranged attacks with the attack button by pressing A by default. Okay, whatever. And what does, if we press the X key, we can go over to our talent issue, and what does steady shot do? Well, no, I want to know what it does. Let me know what you do, thingy. My assumption is that it's just a very, very accurate shot. We hit level 4 by lighting a torch. Who would have thought it? Oh, there it is. Ranged attack that allows the creature to reroll a failed to hit check. Oh, that's really good. Okay. That's actually quite incredible. Let's test it out. Yeah. We can also assign these to hotkeys if we wanted to. So if I press the 1 key now, I can use steady shot. But as you can see, each time I use steady shot, it costs me one of my little stamina points up here in the top center. And so we don't get those arrows back, so I'm kind of convinced that I should probably hold off on firing too many arrows at people. I'm going to save it until I need it. Oh, there's a celestial book or something. I don't know. A book of magic. And there's an archery skill trainer and also a well, as we saw earlier in the game. Light up those torches. We can pick those mushrooms all over the place in case you were wondering. They are unidentified, and I don't recall what they do. They might be a healing... Ow! I stepped on floor spikes. Can I go home? Go ahead and get our HP back here. Pick the lock and then kick the door down. I feel like I have commitment issues. Ooh, 10 bolts. The crossbowman's recipe of wind. Take a bolt and use more than enough force. Yeah, I need arrows, though. I was hoping those would be 10 arrows, because that would have kept me stocked on arrows for quite some time. We've got cheese. An unidentified cheese. Well, hopefully it's not the cheese from a troll's toes or something like that. That would upset me. We'll unlock that door. We will pick it like a wedgie. Who gets buried with a bunch of... Nope, I don't want this. Oh, you want to get into a shooting contest, do you? Yeah, shot you with an arrow, bud. What are you going to do now? What? Oh, he's pulled out a club. He has a cudgel! Stab him to death. If he doesn't beat us to death first. Okay, he almost beat us to death, but we survived our first orc, which is always a nice thing. So let's go ahead and regenerate and get all our health back. And then we'll take a look at his loot. And so he's got a food ration, which I'm going to take. He's got 6 gold coins. He's got unidentified leather armor. Well, I'm going to take his flask. He's got a normal bow that doesn't have modifiers, and so that would be 1 to 3 versus the bow we're currently using, which is a 0 to 3. So I think we're going to go with this one right here. And we'll just ditch that right there. Press the R key to sort my inventory really fast. And then I don't really need the bolts. I mean, I think he ran out of arrows from firing at me. We can obviously pick up some of the ones from over here to make our lives a little bit easier. And then let me take those 4 arrows, throw them in here. Cool, we actually have the potential to do... Oh, there's a nice little counter right here. It tells you how many arrows you have. I never noticed that before. Awesome UI go. That explains why he was out of arrows and he didn't one-shot us, because he was up here just having target practice with a bunch of snails. And so we don't have... I would love to level up one more time and get a perk so that I can go back to the archery trainer over here and learn a new archery skill, but as it stands at the moment, not going to be something that is available to us. Oh, spike pit in front of a... We'll check this really fast. There's a plate helm in there and some sticks. Kind of backup ammo just in case we need it. I'm going to hang out right here and get some health back. Oh, we got a spider coming at us. That was a terrible shot. I said shoot the spider, not the ladder. Switch back to our knife. Get into a knife fight with a spider. In what other genre can you say that I got in a knife fight with a spider today? If somebody asked me, what did you do today? And I told them I got in a knife fight with a spider. Or at least if I asked somebody. Let's reverse it right here because I feel like the euphemism, or at least I feel like the tangent would be better if I reversed it. So let's say I walk up to a guy and I say, hey guy, what did you do today? And he's like, I got in a knife fight with a spider. I feel like there would be a story that quickly follows that. Like, there would be a story that I would really need to be elucidated as I played through my day. I'm pushing the wrong keys here. Oh, that's not what I want either. Let's switch back to... Oh, I don't want to do that. Nope. Let's just fight with the bats then. And so we're being struck from behind by a rather nasty, dishonorable bat. But we've survived the assault. We've stepped on a magical explodey trap. How enjoyable. Let's eat some food, and then we'll hang out right here. And I may actually allow this weekly indie newcomer to go a little bit long, because I do find this game to be enjoyable. And even though we're out of time right now, I do feel as though I owe you some kind of conclusion. So either we'll win the dungeon and then we'll quit, or we will lose the dungeon and then we'll quit. But we are going to bring this thing to its final fruiting. This is kind of a maze-like... Ow! This is one of those cases where I feel like I would be much better served to have a digger around, so that I could just bust through the walls. So I'm going to press the Q key to jump over the spike pit, and we managed to make it, given our super awesome agile nature. There's a bear trap, which has now captured us. Caught our ass up in a bear trap, to quote the old South Park episode. A throwing knife. Since we've got a lot of agility, I feel like bringing along throwing knives might be a good idea too. Especially with how much damage they do. That might be our trump card. Got another spider here that managed to dodge that trap of explosive yellowness. Whatever the hell it was. And we've got a demon. Those do set you on fire, by the way. Oh, good, I fell into a water pit. The water pit you can drown, just so that you know. You're like, well, that seems like kind of a worthless trap. Yeah, well, it gets you caught up. There's a throwing axe right there, too. I'm going to take that. The snake has died by stepping on a spike trap, and that does serve me along multiple avenues, because that means that I don't have to trigger it with my pedicle on accident. We've got a buckler here. I'm going to take a look. Do we have a worn buckler? Okay, so we've got a worn buckler. I'm going to put on the good buckler. We'll drop the worn one. I'm going to put on the... I think I'm going to keep my dodge modifier. So I'm going to get rid of that. We've got... Oh, maybe it was worn. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, what can you do? I need to equip these arrows, by the way. Let's add them to the stack so that we have 8. Ah, oh, damn it. The snake used his body as camouflage. He was dedicated to that trap. He wanted that trap to get me so badly that he camouflaged it with his corpse before he left. Definitely could use a pickaxe right about now. Make my travel a little bit more easy. I do want to search everything though, because every time I skip a floor I regret. Oh, we've been poisoned. You were affected by a deadly poison. Has a chance of causing D3 points of poison damage. That sucks. So basically, I do like the way that they give you timers so you know how long things are going to last. If you were watching up there, if you want to rewind real fast if you didn't catch it, it has kind of this little rotary motion that lets you know how long the effect's going to last. Basically, the interface and everything else of this game is amazingly tailored to make everything easy to play while simultaneously having enough depth to be complicated, which is a very, very rare balance for an indie game, or I'm sorry, for a roguelike game to strike. Typically, they're either too complicated or the UI kind of sucks and you're just kind of fiddling around with things that you don't feel like fiddling around with. It takes forever to learn the game. This game has found the perfect balance of complication and also useful UI design to make everything a bit more fun to play. So it's one of those little things where this week when I came into my weekly indie newcomer, I had no idea what I wanted to play or what I was going to showcase, and I thought to myself, you know what? I still have Rogue's Tale sitting in my inventory on Desura right now, and I think I'm going to show it off. I think the game is reasonably cheap. Like, it was like $4.99 or something like that. It was very, very cheap. It wasn't an expensive game to purchase, and given the amount of entertainment you can potentially get out of this game, as in like days and days and days worth of playing, I do feel like if you're into games like Dungeons of Dreadmore, this is a very logical place to go next if you wanted something that's a little bit more complicated, still has a sense of humor, but I think is a bit more difficult than Dungeons of Dreadmore, to be honest. This game isn't quite as funny as Dungeons of Dreadmore. Like, sometimes I feel like Dungeons of Dreadmore is just like a comedic stage for the developers to be funny, and that's totally cool. I'm okay with that. This one isn't quite as funny. It does still attempt to be humorous about 80% of the time, though. So I think you've got to try and at least sort of be funny if you're killing the player over and over and over again. I'm going to equip that kite shield. BT dubs, and then we're going to drop that terrible shield, and then what we'll do is we will loot this tome right here because I can sell it off later when we get back to town. 5 damage done right there. I do like how our character has a nice balance of ranged and also melee. I feel like I've got options in case I get into a long-range shootout with somebody, and I think that's going to be about the breadth of this floor. I think I should probably just bail out on this one and go down to the next level. I mean, it looks like we've got a little bit of black space over here that we haven't searched, but there's a bear trap in the way. Oh, there's a couple of traps in the way, which means I gotta rely on my less than satisfactory jumping skills. Yeah, I don't see anything else up in here that I wanted to grab. So, since nothing's looking enticing... And see, I missed my jump now. And there we go. I managed to make it out. And I apologize if my keyboard clicks are too loud and it's ruining your enjoyment of my series. It's one of those little things where I bought a very noisy keyboard without thinking because I like the way that the keys felt. And then once I started LPing, I was like, well, this is sort of inconvenient. Let's eat some food. I'm going to eat this unidentified cheese, and hopefully it's not like a cheese of murder or anything. Well, it could be a cheese of murdering others, but cheese of murdering self, or cheese of increasing chance of self being murdered would be cheeses that I would avoid. Alright, let's see what's down here. We got another orc who's throwing rocks at me. Not the way to start a fruitful relationship, orc. Oh wow, that went really poorly for us. He laid down a whoopin'. Well, that's that. The game is called Rogue's Tale. My name is Splattercat, and this is our weekly indie newcomer. So as I play the game, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons, and I'm going to preface by saying I don't really think there are any cons in this game. It is quite pleasurable. I guess the only con that I would say is that the game is very, very difficult, and it can be difficult to adjust to as well if you're a first-time player, or even like a 10th-time player. You've just got to accept the fact that sometimes you are going to die, just like that right there. Shortly after zoning in, you may step on like 5 spike traps and die instantaneously. You just never quite know. In terms of the pros, this is probably one of the most polished roguelikes I've seen in a while, and I definitely think it stands. See what I mean right there? That you had a demon on the first floor? Crazy. But anyways, one of the things I will say is this is one of the few games that I think can stand alongside the great, really, really polished roguelikes like Tome and Dungeons of Dreadmore and games like that that really attempt to be like the old school DOS games that I used to play, but at the same time are visually accessible and also with regards to their UI design kind of help you through the game instead of abandoning you. And so I think the game really strikes that balance. As I said, it strikes that very good balance of both difficulty, complication, and learnability, which is incredibly rare for the genre. With regards to the itemization of the things you're going to see in game, there are tons of bosses, the floors are randomly generated, there's loads and loads of enemies, there's loads and loads of spells, there's all kinds of crazy stuff to explore and discover. You're going to be playing this game late into the night saying just one more life. My name is Splattercat, this is Weekly Indie Newcomer. The game is called Rogue's Tale, and you can get it on Desura, and I think very shortly, or at least recently, you can get it on Steam as well. I'll include links to both down below in the description along with the price, since I was very, very ambiguous about giving you the price point of the title. Take care out there, everybody, and I will see you next week.